Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a treat today? In the house is the Texas UIL State Champion Conference 5A in number sense, Brennen Ashley, a proud Hallsville High School Bobcat. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and you smash that like button. Please help me spread this joy and beauty to as many people as possible. I have many wonderful things in store for this channel. Brennen Ashley, Class 5A State Champion in number sense, right ahead. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a treat today? In the house is the UIL State Champion Conference 5A in number sense, Brennen Ashley, a proud Hallsville Bobcat. Welcome, Brennen. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mr. Cantu. Just having a good time, winding down from a pretty long school year. And I'm definitely enjoying being able to do some of the things that I truly enjoy just outside of school. So
what are you doing this summer?
I've been doing a lot of working out and playing golf. I've been getting into that recently, which is kind of new for me, but it's something I enjoy doing from time to time now. And especially with one of the guys on the team, Hunter, I've been trying to learn from him because he's on the golf team. He's been kind of trying to show me the ropes a little bit, which I enjoy from him.
Really? Golfing, man. Is there a lot of math or mechanics to it?
Not a whole lot, I'd say, to be honest. But you know what? Maybe it's a good thing.
Sounds like fun. Hey, congratulations on the state championship. What were your thoughts on the state meet?
It was a very interesting meet to cap off what an incredible year it was. A lot of it was extremely unexpected, which I'd say is usual for the state meet. You see a bunch of new names rise and some names they fall, unfortunately. But that's what makes the state meet fun, in my opinion. And it was also great to be able to see a bunch of people from a variety of backgrounds, like you and like a bunch of people from schools in like Dallas and even as far as El Paso, which it was really interesting to just meet a bunch of people and collectively be able to appreciate the beauty of math and compete together.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's just incredible because you network with people throughout the entire state who are academically driven, who are driven to succeed. And that 5A classification is ridiculous, man. It's just
That's right.
like, stud after stud after stud in Class 5A, man. And you're one of them. It's really
Yeah,
ridiculous.
there's so many just like incredible people, and like on any given day, like any of us could have won in any of the events, really. And it just goes to show how talented everyone is, aside from just myself. And say you give that same test 100 times again, there's a chance I don't win any of them, but it just so happens that I won on that day, and I'm grateful for the outcome. But I also have to shout out just how talented everyone else is and
Oh,
everyone else
definitely.
that competes.
We're going to talk a little bit more about your rivals, but before we get deep into this, before we get started, I want to know a little bit about you and your background. Where are you from, born and raised? What's your cultural heritage?
So I've lived in East Texas my whole life. I was born in Longview, which is not that far from Hallsville. But my entire life, I've lived in Marshall, Texas, which is about 20 minutes away from Hallsville, towards Louisiana almost. But I've pretty much been born and raised here my whole life. And my family, they raised me in, I guess, a pretty Christian household. And those values were kind of instilled into me from a very young age. And it's something that I've appreciated more and more as I've gotten older and gotten to know Jesus more myself, which I've really appreciated being able
That's
to start that because of them.
that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful what you just said. That's awesome, man. Hey, Brennan, with that striking red hair, you stick out in a crowd, man. You stick out in a crowd. Do you know what percentage of the population has hair like you?
I think it's like single digits. I think it's like 2% maybe.
It's like a really low. You really stick out in the crowd. It's amazing. I can spot you in the crowd. Where's that flaming red hair? Where's that flaming red hair?
Yeah,
That's
I'm the only
awesome.
redhead in my family, but my grandmother was a redhead,
Oh, is
and
that right?
yes, sir.
Really?
So I think I
Wow.
get it from her.
It's really a striking feature. Every time I see you, I'm like, wait a minute, there goes the red hair. That's funny.
Yeah.
Funny. Hey, so when did you realize you had a talent in mathematics?
I'd say very early on, like around the kindergarten age,
Ooh.
whenever like around this time, I'd ask my parents for math worksheets for fun instead of like playing outside. And it seems nerdy in hindsight, but it's something that showed me what my true talents lied in. And going into eventually sixth grade where I'd start competing in UIL math, which before I did spelling, but going into competing in the UIL math scene, those skills of just being able to get ahead early on were crucial. But I also want to mention like my introduction into UIL because it was, I'd say, pretty rocky, to be honest.
Really?
So initially, I was pretty opposed actually to competing in UIL. Like, I didn't like the idea of spending every Saturday just going to a random town and doing math problems all day just for some medals. I wasn't really a fan of that idea initially, but I soon grew to love it. And I also want to mention my first meet just competing. And I remember that vividly because I made a negative 35 on the number sense test, which was the lowest at the entire meet.
What?
And yeah, so it wasn't a great start for sure, but I knew it was something that I wanted to continue in as I got older. And that's kind of led me to where I am today.
Then
And
negative
also,
35.
hmm,
Negative 35. And now you're state champion.
that's right.
It's
It's
incredible.
insane the development that's just gone through, like from everything, including, my mom used to sit me down on the kitchen table and just like teach me like trig and algebra years before I really needed to learn it. But that was something I really appreciated from her, and that definitely helped my experience early on,
So did she
which
inspire you or who inspired you?
I'd say my main inspiration would be my grandfather, but that's someone that I really looked up to my entire life. You know, he grew up on a dairy farm in Oklahoma from very humble beginnings. And as he got older, he got into, med school, and he ended up working as a surgeon, the head surgeon for the Good Shepherd Hospital in Marshall, which is where I live. And, you know, I always admired his work ethic and his down to earth demeanor. And that's someone I always really wanted to be. And, whenever we lost him about a little over a year ago, I knew I wanted to continue just wanting to make him proud, even if he wasn't around in person. But I know from heaven he's watching down on me at all times. And yeah, that's definitely my inspiration, is I'd have to say my grandfather.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Great inspiration.
For
So,
sure.
tell me about Hallsville High School. What's it like? What's the academic environment like?
Well, I have to say Hallsville's pretty I guess pretty traditional compared to these other high schools. We're a pretty small school district of one junior high and one high school, and our town has around like 4,000 people. So, for what it's worth, Hallsville's academic environment is pretty strong comparative to a bunch of schools in our area. But I don't think it's anything compared to, like the Dallas schools or the Houston schools of Texas. But regardless, I do appreciate the hard work done by all of our teachers and our administrators for giving us just the opportunities to succeed beyond just high school. And so that's something I'm very appreciative of.
Did they
Um,
celebrate your victory?
um, I think a lot of people knew about it. Um, Whenever we got back, it was like the last day of school, so there
Yeah.
wasn't a whole lot we could do. But pretty much all of the teachers had learned about it and were really proud, which I really appreciated from them. And like even before being able to come first at state, they were always very supportive. And I remember distinctly, like my freshman year, especially, I would leave class early sometimes and just go to Mr. Clay's room and practice. And yeah, they let me do that for quite some time, and that really helped my development. And I think that's one of the ways that Hallsville as a school district is so supportive of our UIL program and me as an individual.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, tell me about the team this year, and make some shout outs to your fellow teammates and to your coach.
Well, I must say the team expectations coming into this year were pretty low. So we had just come off a pretty good year with Luke Jenkins and Caleb Strange on our team, and those two were extremely talented, and they made up a big part of especially our number sense and our math teams. But once they had graduated, we knew we had very big holes to fill, especially in like number sense and in math. And so coming into this year, we knew there was going to be some growing pains, especially trying to reload from the team we had last year. So the expectation was to maybe get in as one team, and I'd be able to make it in like individually into state. And I wasn't sure how we'd place. You know, the expectation was just to rebuild and learn new stuff. But we ended up doing way more than that because of everyone's hard work as a team and Mr. Clay's support along the way. And we ended up winning the team title in calculator,
Wow.
which was extremely remarkable for us. We haven't done that in 11 years, I believe.
Wow.
And that was really amazing to me and to the whole team, I think, almost as much, I'd say as much as my individual success. Just because, looking back at the year we had prior, it was a very successful year, but at state, we all felt like we came short. You know, with Mr. Clay's heart attack, which I'm sure many are aware of, that kind of hindered us a lot. And especially with the realization that we almost just lost our coach, that was very surprising and just like you know,
Traumatic.
it kind of derailed us a lot, I'd say. And being able to bounce back from that a year later, and coming back to Austin, winning a title as an individual and as a team, that made all the hardships from last year, I think, worth it. So,
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You want to shout out some of your teammates?
yeah, I have so many people to shout out. It's crazy. Let me see. First of all, I must shout out everyone on our team. You know, Mr. Clay, our coach. He's been extremely instrumental in just especially being able to teach everyone and as a morale booster and a father figure in a way to us. You know, he's really a special person to our experience at Hallsville. And to me in particular, I really appreciate everything he's been able to do for me. You know, like coming into my eighth grade year, whenever I didn't have a coach, I remember my mom reached out to him, and I ended up coming to the high school practices as an eighth grader. And I'm still really appreciative of, you know, his generosity with that and dealing with me even before I was a freshman. And so, you know, that's something I really appreciate from him and, you know, just being extremely supportive of all of us throughout our whole journeys as UIL competitors. I also must shout out our team members who they completely busted their butts this year and made this year extremely memorable for us. And I think their hard work in particular was what brought us our team success. And so I must shout out on the number sense team, we have Hunter, Chandler, and Emma. On calculator, we have Evan, Morgan, and Garrett. And then math, we have Maverick and Yemo. And all of those guys I just named, they worked their tails off this year. And without their hard work, we would have not made this year memorable at all. But, you know, just their dedication to grinding as a team is something I really appreciate and I must shout them out for. Also gotta mention some past teammates, Luke and Caleb in particular. You know, like I met them first in one of those eighth grade practices, and I think their initial impression of me was, who's this cocky freshman who thinks he knows everything? And, you know, it didn't start out great, but even throughout all that, they were still able to kind of welcome me with open arms to the team from an early period of time. And they were kind of my mentors throughout their final years at high school and through my first few. And that's something I really appreciate them for, especially just like looking up to them and being able to learn from them, as well as being able to teach them things myself and having their support, which made their 2 years with me extremely special to me. Also, have to shout out some other guys that have helped me along the way. I have to first shout out Peter Fuentes. So I met him through your Discord server, the Texas Math Mundo server, initially. And at this time, I think it was December of my freshman year. But at this time, I kind of knew I had a little bit of a name for myself, but I wasn't expecting to be known by Peter because I saw him from those live streams and he was just like, man, this guy's special. I wish I could work with him. And he ended up DMing me on Discord. And, you know, from there, it's kind of just, he's kind of become one of my other coaches that has really been able to help foster my growth as a competitor. And that's something I'll really appreciate out of him. You know, even though he's across the state from me, you know, he's in like South Texas. I'm in like 8 hours away in East Texas. Even that, he's been able to support me just unconditionally, and I really appreciate that from him. And that's one of the main reasons I'm here today, is because of his dedication to helping teach me.
I love that. He's the real deal. You know, MIT grad, stuff like that.
Yeah,
He's the real
he's
deal, man.
amazing.
He's awesome, awesome stuff.
I also have to shout out a couple more. Mr. Gillespie, the Flower Bluff
Yeah.
junior high coach. I was introduced to him through our junior high coach, Mr. Childs, and he was really instrumental in helping me foster my number sense skills early on. And still to this day, there's a bunch I can learn from him, and I really appreciate his attitude towards number sense as a test. I've never met someone as passionate to this competition as he is. And he will spend hours just trying to figure out one problem just to help us win these meets. And that dedication alone, I really appreciate out of him. And me being able to work with him and him being able to, take me in as one of his own, like with Peter, is something I really appreciate. Also, to shout out Miss Whiteley, one of the teachers that used to teach at our school. She was extremely instrumental, especially my sophomore year, being able to teach me a bunch of calculus and stuff. And she was one of the teachers I would just sneak into during class. And she'd just be able to treat me like one of her own students, which is something I really appreciated because her support was really, really helpful. And even if I don't see her as much today, she's definitely someone I've always looked up to. She competed back in the early 2010s whenever we won state as a team back in 2014. And so she's very familiar with all the tests, and she was able to help me with them as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Some great shout outs.
And I have more. So
Ah,
I also have to shout out my junior high coach, Mr. Childs. He was, especially, early on, his system at Hallsville Junior High was very effective in developing a bunch of people, myself included. And he really got me just motivated to want to work more in UIL. And that's something I really appreciate out of him. He's this larger than life character. Everyone in the school would know him and everyone loved him. And it was really saddening to see him going into my eighth grade year. But, he's still around. It's just not directly as much with Hallsville, but I'll always remember his contributions to Hallsville as a program and my own individual development. And finally, I especially want to mention my family, my parents, and my twin brother. Their support, especially throughout these last couple of years, has been extremely important to me. And just their love and their support throughout every step of the way in my life, even through just extremely hard times for all of us, is something I'll always appreciate. And have, I'll always appreciate just their love and love them back. You know what I mean?
awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. 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 Hey, what is your favorite moment from UIL so far?
I honestly, it sounds cliche. I'd have to say the getting that gold medal draped around my neck by Mr. White. That kind of showed me just how my work just paid off in that one moment, and it made everything from the last year worth it. Which I would like to mention, my most memorable moment in UIL was one that I don't like to remember. It was last year at state whenever I kind of came short um, in like comparison to my expectations. Like I just had a terrible meet overall. And I remember this vividly because Caleb kind of like pulled me aside, and just said, this may seem hard right now, but just imagine how much better it will feel whenever you actually win and come over the hump. And that's something I couldn't get out of my head all year this year, and that's something I kept reminding myself. It's all going to be worth it. And it kind of just showed me that the path that I had through UIL, while it wasn't something I expected to go through, it was it was just amazing after that medal was draped around my neck by Larry White.
You're not the first champion that tells me that one of the most memorable moments is when they lost. You know what I'm saying? That apparently that actually adds fuel to the fire, And one of my favorite quotes was I heard Akeem Olajuwon say this back in the day. He said, "You don't know a winner when he's winning. You know a winner when he's losing." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that moment in particular taught me a lot about myself. I think it definitely humbled me for sure. I remember throughout that sophomore year, the whole season, I was kind of cocky. I like coming off of getting second my freshman year in calculator. I had these insane expectations, like ridiculous, truly, and I wanted to fulfill them, no doubt. But my ego kind of got in the way, and I thought I could just get by without having to do so much. And that moment really showed me I was taking a lot of things for granted, and I really just needed to appreciate my journey as a whole. And so I think that whole moment, especially, with Caleb, that was a big turning point for me because it kind of showed me where I need to set my goals for myself.
Well, that is a special moment to have Mr. Larry White hang that gold medal around your neck. That's special. So where are you going to keep that gold medal?
I have it in my room right now. I have it right here actually. Um,
Oh
like
wow,
that.
beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm still in part of me is still in disbelief that I was able to pull that off. And like I said earlier, you could have given that test 100 more times, and there's a chance I wouldn't have won a single one.
You know,
But
Brennan, you could be great. You could be great and not ever become a state champion.
that's right. I think there's so many just extremely talented people that have never gone to state and come back with a gold medal.
That's
And I
right.
think there's definitely a point to be made that, even if you don't end up becoming a state champion, the value gained from UIL is immense.
Exactly. You know, the very few champions. You are the
That's right.
mountaintop. That's why I'm interviewing you. You're a star, superstar. But I love UIL because of all the other guys. It just helps kids improve. It helps kids improve, man. So awesome, awesome. Hey, do me a favor. Talk about your rivalries.
Oh, there's a lot. Let's see. I'd have to make this into, I guess, two sections because there's a lot of team and individual rivalries. I'd say for teams, especially, Mount Pleasant was probably the biggest for us, being in our district for as long as we can remember. They've always had just incredible teams year in and year out. Even whenever we think that they lose a bunch of people, they end up coming to their first meet and just whooping our butts. And they kind of help us like motivate ourselves. And their coach has done an amazing job just developing talent year in and year out.
Osias Hernandez?
That's right. He's amazing. Um, Also, I'd have to say Pine Tree was another big one. Pine Tree, especially the first 2 years of my high school career, they would always be the ones that we'd try to beat at district. And even now that they're 4A, they're still a very competitive team. And they've really done an amazing job just developing extremely talented kids like, Alex Chin or Emily Wilson or Matthew. And that's an extremely talented group, I must say. And then we also have to mention Grapevine, Argyle, and Highland Park, those three Dallas schools that, especially this year with Highland Park coming in from 6A, it was it was kind of like a rivalry renewed, I must say, because in years past we would compete against them, but whenever they were 6A we wouldn't worry. And now that they're back, it's a team we have to look out for. And I'd say they were our biggest competition at regionals. And then I guess across the state, like I said, with Argyle and Grapevine, Flower Bluff as well, they always have really talented teams, especially with the help of Mr. Gillespie. And also, um, I'd say more earlier on, but Sherryland Pioneer, they were really talented with Derek and Daniel, and especially with the help of Peter. I mean, we were kind of competing against them, and I was taking from their coach, which just goes to show how much Peter really wanted to support me.
5A is
Individual,
ridiculous. 5A is with all the teams in 5A, and then Region 2 is a bloodbath, and then Science Engineering Magnet is going to be in there next year. Oh my God.
Yeah, and also forgot to mention Frisco Heritage
Oh, yeah.
with, their teams with Agnew. They've always been really talented, and we'll go to region expecting to maybe get like first or second in math. We go and we just get absolutely humbled every time by Frisco, and it just goes to show like their program as well is just amazing, and they should definitely be noted. I also would have to say individually, Steven and Piyush and Avi, those in my grade, they were they're just super talented, honestly. And Piyush especially, I'd have to say is probably my biggest rival individually. But, those three at Team SCA State, like year in and year out, I'm gonna have to just keep on going against them. And, next year it's gonna be even harder since Magnet is going into 5A.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I'd also have to mention the Edinburgh North team, just like any one of them, they can come out of that testing room and have like the best score at the state, especially with Edgar and Joseph. And those like that whole group is just extremely talented. And also want to mention Spencer and Andrew from Highland Park. As well as being a really talented team, Spencer and Andrew really they pushed me to wanting to become better as an individual. Like they're just extremely talented. And Andrew himself, he won state
Yeah,
back a couple years ago, and that's a big deal.
it is. It is.
And being in our region, just going against them, like they were just really talented.
It's
I also
superstar
want to
after
mention
superstar after superstar in five. People just don't know.
exactly.
5A owned 6A this year. 5A
Yeah, 5A.
owned 6A. Hey,
Yeah.
Matthew Medina in calculator this year.
Yes. Matthew Medina, I had to mention as well. He's extremely good in calculator, and he really shocked me at state, you know, in the calculator event. But he's really talented, and I'm really glad, honestly, that he was able to come out with his own state title, and to see his story coming from El Paso, and I heard he's going to MIT as well, which is
Oh wow.
fascinating. But yeah, he was really talented. He's been talented for several years, and I just got to mention him just because, like, I'd say he was my biggest competitor in calculator, especially these past couple of years.
Now you're coming back next year. You're coming back. Tell me about Hallsville next year. What are your
I got
predictions?
to. So, like I said, with this past year, it was kind of our rebuilding year after losing Luke and Caleb. But next year, I feel like we're going to come back even better. We
Wow.
are losing Morgan on our calculator team, and she was very talented herself. But I think with the people we have returning, we still have Evan and Garrett on our calculator team, and I hope we can repeat in that. Additionally, I want to see how much we see Hunter and Chandler and Emma and Emo and Maverick. They're all going to take massive leaps this year. I can already tell you that because I know that their work ethic is going to continue from last year. And so I'm predicting that Hallsville's hopefully going to make it in all three, but you never know.
Especially
But I
with
think
science engineering
regardless,
magnet going.
yeah, science, engineering, magnets, they're going to make that hard. But I think regardless, we're bound to have a great year next year.
Y'all are poised to be spectacular next year. Y'all are really like in a position where, man, y'all are just going to be incredible next year. Hopefully, if everything works out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Wow, wow. All right, so you're predicting all three next year?
Well, I say we make it to state in all three.
All right.
I'm hoping to medal in all three and hopefully win calculator. But you know, it's so early to tell because any of those teams, they could just take a huge leap and just completely just throw everything off. So,
Hey, what do you value the most about your UIL journey so far?
I'd have to say, aside from just learning math and being able to pursue my passions, I'd have to say the connections and the friendships that I've made with all the people I've met through UIL, as well as just like within my own team. Our whole team morale, we're kind of like one big like friend group, and that makes just everything extremely enjoyable throughout all the meets. And like meeting people from other schools has also been incredible, and even like meeting coaches like I'd say Keith Taylor
Yeah.
as well from Sabine. He's always fun to see and to talk to after the test. But yeah, I'd have to say the connections and the friendships I've made throughout my journey in UIL.
So, what advice can you offer a youngster that comes across this interview?
Well, I'd have to say, just speaking from my own experiences, the path to success is it's never going to be easy. You're always going to have to work for it, and even if you do work for it, there's nothing that's going to guarantee success. But never should you lose hope and your drive to pursue the goal ahead of you. And that's that's something that I think, my own successes have resonated with perfectly.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. That's great. I always say when competition drives us to excel, we all win. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Hey, so I know you're going to enter your senior year. This first semester is probably going to be busy with college applications. Have you got any thought? Where do you want to go?
I want to go to UT Austin most likely, and I'd say my dream school is MIT, but that might be a bit far of a reach for me. But regardless, I want to pursue a degree in either aerospace or chemical engineering, which it kind of goes along with my passion in math, and I think that would be a great way to use my skills as a career.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Wow. Well, we'll see. I'll be anxious to see, man. I'll be anxious to see. I'm going to enjoy your senior year because as I report results, as I encounter you at tournaments, that's going to be great to follow you, man.
Yes, sir.
So, as we're going to conclude this interview, are there any parting words or final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Um, I don't really have any, to be honest. I'm just appreciative of everything that was able to go the way it did at state. And I'm grateful to just have the opportunity to be able to compete with the group of people I'm with just year in and year out. And I'm very excited to see what's in store for next year and what we'll be able to accomplish as a group.
Hey, I'm excited to follow you guys, man. Y'all are going to be strong. I'm kind of see how your senior year goes. Hey, I want to say thank you because you've been a true friend of the channel. You've co-hosted several live streams, and hopefully you'll co-host with me again next year with the live streams. You've been an active, productive, great, positive energy member of the community, and I just want to say thank you for that, and I really appreciate it. I'm a big Brennen Ashley fan. I'm a big Brennen Ashley fan, man. So I'm wishing you the very best. I look forward to following you your senior year, and I hope our paths cross many times.
Yes, sir. It's an
All
honor to be
right.
here. Truly.
Take care, Brennen Ashley. Take care. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Wow, what an incredible young man. Brennen Ashley, the Class 5A Texas UIL state champion in number sense. Congratulations, young man. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and I wish you best of luck next year as a senior. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the notification, the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and you smash that like button. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Let's spread this joy and beauty to as many people as possible. I have many wonderful things in store for this channel, and I truly appreciate your support. My name is Logan Johnson, and this is Texas